but thank you for coming out and being interested in what we're doing here at East Noble. We appreciate that so much. Tonight we're going to be looking at the State of the Corporation address. I'm Teresa Grimeau. I'm the superintendent here for East Noble. And we'll have a few other speakers. We'll have Mr. Brian Leach back there. He is our CFOO. And we also have Dr. Corris, who is our assistant superintendent, and they will all be sharing some information. So before we get started here, I want to just kind of pull everybody back to this. Because if you look at this is the systems of support that we created. And if you look at it all the way around are all of our employees that are an integral part of what we do at East Noble. They all feed into one thing, which is the center of what you see right here in this visualization. It's our students. Our students are number one. They're the most important thing. They're the reason we're here. They're the reason we do what we do. And all of our decisions and programming are surrounded by our students. That's what we do. So I'm first going to have Mr. Leach come up, and he is going to be talking about our finances. So, Mr. Leach, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. Do I need a microphone?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
I didn't think I did, but if I need to, I will. So we're going to briefly talk about some finances, some enrollment, some tax rates, and so forth. If you sat through my invigorating presentations on the budget or the one last board meeting, you've already seen some of this, so I apologize just being duplicated. But we'll go ahead and get started here. So this first slide here, this is the 2023 budget. Has the educational fund, which is the primary source of revenue and budget for the teachers, salary, benefits, instructional support, basically dollars that go into the classroom. You have the operational fund, which is the maintaining of buildings, custodial improvements, as well as operational support and administrators and so forth. Debt service, the $1.589 million that pays for the bonds that we sold, actually to renovate this facility here. You know, we have the referendum debt, which pays basically the mortgage or the lease on the East Noble Middle School that was built back in 16-17 with an opening in 18. So that's the current 2023 budget. The current 2024 budget has already been through its public hearing process and expected to be approved by the school board at the next school board meeting. And roughly about a 4.5-4.7% increase in both the educational fund and the operation fund. This slide here, the bar graph is primarily what we're looking at here, and shows a steady decline in enrollment over the years. Just kind of give you an idea of where the enrollment is going. There's multiple reasons for that, but that's kind of just shows you what the trend is right now, as well as our special ed population, our ELL population, and then our freedom of reduced population. You'll see a significant dip there that has to do with COVID, and when the federal government decided that breakfast and lunches would be free, we saw less parents filling out free and reduced applications, so therefore we saw a decline in our percentage. This chart here is one, again, we've shown before. The takeaway here is we have a net outlay of students to other districts, whether it be public school corporations, private, homeschooled, parochial schools, within our taxing district and outside. So we have a net loss of 275 students. East Noble receives approximately $7,000 per student. That number looks larger than what it really is, and we'll dig into that here on this next slide. To note, where students that live within our taxing district and where they're going, the top portion of the graph shows what other public school entities they would be transferring to. For example, Smith Green, 26 students, Central Noble 43, and you can kind of see down through there. The reason I said the 275 is kind of smaller than what it really looks like is because down here at the bottom you see St. John and St. Mary's. That's roughly 120 students. St. John and St. Mary's have been around here for years. Typically those students will end up at East Noble either into middle school or high school. So that 275 net loss really is less than that because of St. John and St. Mary's that we've been working with for years, and even a lot of our special ed and services go to those facilities and provide support for those students. This is just a graph here that talks about, really there's 502 students that are transferring out, but we have 227 that transfer in, and that's where you get your net difference of 275. It shows choice scholarship, charter schools, public schools, and parent choice, and then the corporations there as well. So this then moves into our assessed valuation. Over the past 3-4 years, you can see the assessed valuation has really kind of ballooned here in our taxing district. It's been on an increase really since 2013-14. There's 1 year since I've been here early on in my career that we saw a decrease, but from there on out, it's been an increase every year. That's not something that we control. We have no influence on that assessed valuation, but that is what is directly then ties to our tax rates. So this takes our assessed valuation and compares it to other school corporations. And as I mentioned before, the assessed valuation directly affects our tax rate. As your assessed valuation goes up, assuming a steady levy, your tax rate will come down. So if your assessed valuation goes down, assuming the same levy, your tax rate will go up. So you can see here, East Noble is kind of right in the middle with Westview and DeKalb on our assessed valuation. The dots really don't mean anything for us. It just breaks it down to a per student basis. So we don't really look much at that. The next slide here goes into our tax rates. As you saw our assessed valuation going up, then you'll see our tax rates coming down. This compares our tax rate to neighboring districts in the area, including Allen County. I don't put foreign community in here because they're kind of an anomaly. If you put them in here, it really skews all the information and so forth. So the different types of tax rates we have here are the operations fund, referendum debt, whether it be for capital improvements or whether it be for operating. Operating referendums are really to support dollars to the classroom, additional teachers or increased teacher salaries, and so forth. Then you have your regular debt service. The school pension debt is something that was put into play a long time ago. Ours was actually paid off back in 2014, 15 maybe, and that's when there was an unfunded liability and the state allowed corporations to sell bonds to support that unfunded liability, which is really for teacher retirement. So from there, that's a rough overview of the finances. I'll turn it over to Dr. Kors, and she will go through our academic data.
All right, so we're going to start off. When you look at reading and writing, we talk about test scores. Here we have the SAT scores from 22 and 23. You can see when we look at reading and writing, you can see that reading and writing has increased by 5% from 2022, putting us just over the state average. For math, we dropped just a bit, and in turn putting us just below the state average. And you'll see the reading and writing scores a little bit later, and that will definitely play hand in hand. Next, we have our graduation rate. It has steadily improved, which is awesome. It's something that we always work at, especially in the high school, because when you think about it, a lot of students will be homeschooled or drop out of school. So it's something we're always trying to do is get kids across the finish line. So we don't have data from 2023 because it's not solidified until the end of September. You'll see the reading and writing data here as well. Over the past few years, not only have the number of students taking AP and dual credit classes increased, but as you can see, the number of passing has increased as well. So that goes hand in hand with our SAT scores. Those language arts scores have gone up, so that's fantastic. And to pass, you have to have a 3, a 4, or a 5 for a university to recognize that you did indeed pass that class. So next we talk about the other schools around us. So we always are comparing ourselves to not only districts surrounding us, but the state averages. And so it's just something that we do. So we like to see not only where we are in English and language arts, because those are the two big that stick out the most. So the state average here is 40.7, and we are at 28%. Certainly not something we are proud of, and definitely working on that. And then in math, the state average is 40.9, and we are at 32.4. So we'll talk about later what the programming we have done to really shift that. It takes years to improve data, but we have just really picked apart every single thing that we're doing, and you'll see that in a bit, but I don't wanna stand here and tell you that, oh, our scores are so great. We openly admit that this is something that we are working on. So this is an interesting model. If you look at it, the diagram shows how the state assessment has changed over the last few years. So the first cliff, which is right here with the first yellow arrow, is in 2015, where the state wanted a more rigorous test. So they changed the end of the year assessment, so you'll see a dip in the scores. And then in 2018, they wanted another more rigorous test, so they changed the test again into the I-STEP test, and that's where we drop yet again. Then we finally get going, and then in I lost my spot, I'm sorry. Then the next drop was, then we have, so here's where iLearn started. So we had I-STEP, we did I-STEP for a while, then we did iLearn, which is what we currently take, and then we have another dip, which is COVID. So if you think about it, next year the test is supposed to change again. What do you think maybe will happen with the data? Right, so it's very discouraging, but like I said, it's something that we're fully embracing. So this is just a graphic model of what you just saw. You saw this was I-STEP, then we roll into iLearn, and then we have COVID, and then we start to tick up. And we are starting to move in the right direction just minimally in the math area. So this is an I-STEP question from 3rd grade, and I'll read this for you if you can't see it. It says, the city has a lovely park where cats live to come in the summer. The bar graph below shows the number of each type of cats in the city park. So you're analyzing the little data, and then you have a question. Complete the table. How many gray cats are there? How many yellow cats are there? How many times the number of white cats are to gray cats? Okay, so that would be considered what we call a depth of knowledge level 1 or 2. Very surface level, just answering basic, I lost the word again. Retention types of questions. So you read it, you regurgitate it, you move on. So let's look at this one. Where do you think talk to your neighbor. I'll read it real quick and then I'll type it. So you start out, you have all this reading. You are helping a 4th grade class get organized for art day. So you have all these things. You have test 1, test 2. You have all this data to analyze. Turn to your neighbor. What grade level do you think this one is?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Administrators aren't allowed to answer. Shout it out. What do you think it is?
4th.
It's 3rd grade.
Oh.
This is our new 3rd grade. So you can see your lots of reading. So if you're a struggling reader, but you're really good in math, boom, you're already going to struggle. There's lots of analyzing. There's critical thinking. And not that those things are bad, but when people say, oh my gosh, their test scores are so terrible, sometimes you need to look at all the information. So, and this is a long test. So if a kid sits down and you think about, oh, they're used to gaming, they're not used to focusing this long, this becomes a struggle. You have to answer all of these. They feed into each other. So this is what our current 3rd graders are taking. So my point is that we know we have areas to work on, and we are really trying hard to just move that big ship of getting us in the right direction. So our programming, as Dr. Germel is going to speak about, is really moving us. I see lots of good things in the schools every day. I see kids engaged. The state of Indiana has just put a lot forth on getting us moving in the right direction. So I just thank you for coming, and back to Dr. Germel.
So obviously, as Dr. Porras just stated, we know we have a need for change. We know. We've already started working on some things, and we have spent a lot of time trying to come up with some things while implementing a strategic plan. So we have accomplished some things because we did recognize we had areas that we needed to grow in. So we did, our board allowed us to conduct a climate audit that gave us some feedback about things that we need to change internally, things that will help us retain teachers and other staff members and such. We implemented small group reading instruction to make sure that we're trying to target those students that are very much struggling across the board and get our reading scores up. We've developed Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, and that's been about a 3-year process now that we've been working on that. Took time to align the curriculum, K through 12, especially where our elementaries, where we want to make sure that they're all on the same page. So when one student moves from one school to another, we don't have learning gaps. And because a lot of times we're backpedaling and trying to fill in those gaps. So I also spent last year going to PTO meetings, PAC meetings, I think some people call it. Just wanted to get some feedback from our parents. Where do we need to improve? What do we need to do differently? And so a lot of valuable information came out of that. We also spent the year led by Joanna Cook, our digital citizen curriculum writing. Is very important because in the world that our students live in today, it's very important that they understand what digital citizenship means and what their digital footprint means. So spent a lot of time doing that. We actually put together a student voice committee, and they've been meeting for a few years, about 1.5 years now, and a lot of good feedback from the kids. One of the things that they brought up was food. They wanted better food. And we have our food service director that has worked very hard on trying to raise that bar. And the students have given us good feedback that it's getting better. They're able to try some new things. It also led to our vape detectors being installed at the middle school and the high school, and most recently our elementaries. We have improved marketing efforts. And we have established an alumni association, and we'll be connecting with those. We also know we had to increase our salaries and our benefits for all staff, not just our teachers, but we looked and we made sure that we were increasing those for our instructional aides and making sure that they had the benefits they needed to be able to stay employed with us. So that we increased their hours, the instructional staff hours, instructional assistants, and offered them health insurance. That's not something that we have done in the past. We also added 4 teachers to support smaller class sizes. We knew class sizes were an issue. We were having behavior problems. That was something that we put in place. We hired additional support staff like a psychologist, OTA, nurse, and a 0.5 resource teacher. We also began putting out an exit survey for our students and their families that are leaving East Noble. We want to know why they're leaving and what we can do about it. What are we going to target? Are there issues that we need to know about and address? So also came along is food service. We now offer free breakfast and lunches for K through 8. That really was nothing to do with us, but it was the legislators, but we're very thankful. Did apply for a grant to make that happen, so we're very, very excited about that. And I misspoke, it is the book rental that we had nothing to do about, but that was legislative driven. So continuous upgrades always in our facilities and classrooms. Mr. Leach is excellent at doing that and working with our administrative staff and making sure everybody has what they need. And then we also created what we call Knights Academy for our students that are really struggling behavior-wise. It's a place for them to land, it's a safe place, it's a place for them to learn and grow and learn how to be integrated back into the regular gen ed classroom. While these were all really good and positive changes, we know we still need more. So while all of that was going on, we began working on the strategic plan. The former strategic plan was from 2018 to 2023, so it's just now coming to an end. So we needed to update We needed additional critical issues addressed, and we needed to plan for the future. So that has been taking place over the last year, and I'm gonna walk you through the steps that we went through to look at every aspect of our district. First, it began by creating a new vision statement, and that began with the board. The board is driving where we're gonna start. So, inspiring students to be lifelong learners and positive contributing members of their community. No matter where they go, we wanna make sure that they are positive contributing members of their community. We would love them to stay here, but that doesn't always happen. So then the mission statement came up, and this was created by our administrative team based on what the vision was. Inspiring excellence by providing the foundation where students collaborate, think critically, and problem solve through engaging opportunities and empower them to pursue their passions and lifelong success. It was very important to many, many people in the district to keep the inspire, engage, and empower, and we integrated that into that mission statement. Then came looking at our graduates. Where do we want our graduates to be when they leave us? What are the most important attributes we say that we want them to have when they walk out our doors? And took a critical look at what that looked like and came up with these 7. We want to make sure that when they do leave us, no matter what life path they choose, they have those critical attributes ready to go. So with that, how do we make sure that our students walk out and have those attributes? We needed to be very intentional and committed to providing resources and supports that bring our goals to fruition. So we put together these commitment statements that we are committed to providing critical thinking opportunities. And I'm not going to read through every single one of them, but experience that enhanced skills necessary to foster respectful and responsible citizens. We also offer support, strategies, guidance, and successfully navigate challenging and diverse environments with integrity. And we provide foundational opportunities to develop a strong financial, civic, and digital footprint. So the profile of a graduate, when you walked in tonight, you probably saw down the hallway a series of these exemplars. And this is just one I pulled out, which is a preschool one, to give you an idea of how they were created. We took each one of those attributes and we decided what is it that we need those kids doing in the classroom to ensure that we are building upon that attribute each year as they progress through our school corporation. So an example of some are hands-on activities and projects to problem solve tasks. That would be a critical thinking piece. Communication, and you can think of it in pre-K, but just being able to problem solve with their peers is very important. And then just developing grit. I mean, how many people do you know that just will not persevere through something anymore? So giving our students the opportunity to do that and work with their peers and set goals for themselves and make sure that they're working through those goals. And if you look here, when it talks about the attribute of literacy, literacy is not just the English language. Literacy means way more than that. We're talking about digital literacy, and we talked about what that digital footprint looks like. We talked about financial literacy, and very thankfully, a few years ago, the board put into place that they wanted every student upon graduation to make sure they had a financial literacy class. So that is happening right now in our high school, and it will continue to happen because it is an important piece. And then we also have just normal English literacy, reading, writing, and math, and we make sure that make sure that they're literate in all of these areas. So I want to take you back to this. We started with this, and it was the very core, our students in the center, and if you look at it, it's surrounded by environment, relationships, and learning. And those what we have identified as our key pillars when we look at whatever critical issues. Where does it fall in those pillars? So we identified for our strategic plan when we started what those critical issues are. And it did start with the board. They identified what those critical issues were. We took them to the administrators. What are more critical issues? And it's amazing how most of them were very similar. Took them to the staff, and the staff started looking at them. But to simplify things, each one of these pillars, these are the critical issues that we felt like we really need to address as a school corporation. And I'm gonna read through just a few. We know mental health right now among students, even adults, is very critical. So we need to make sure that we're doing things and putting them in place to support those needs. Discipline, we know that there's some frequent flyers and some people that they just need a little extra support. Under the learning pillar, we have class size. We looked at curriculum development and aligning that, not just horizontally, but vertically as well. Motivation for our students is a huge issue. They're not engaged. They're not getting the work done because they just are not engaged. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We also know there's a lot of STEM activities out there, and we wanted to go for STEM certification, and we'll be talking a little bit of difference between STEM and STEAM, and also providing the necessary professional development to make sure that we can be successful in working with our students. We also know our parent involvement. We want that to be better. And we're looking at us. What can we do to help make that happen? We also know we have declining enrollment. Mr. Leash was up here and he shared that with you. And so we're looking at what can we do to increase that enrollment or keep from losing students. And also the last thing on there was staff sustainability. It's critical that we retain and attract a wonderful teaching staff, because it really is the reason why most kids learn. So under the environment pillar, we looked at a couple different things. I've already mentioned the mental health piece and making sure that we have counseling throughout. We've actually teamed up with Parkview Health and still working on that, trying to get that in place for our students. And we already team up with Bowen Center, Northeastern Center, and make sure that we are working with our counselors and administrators on that and trying to find how we can better serve our students through this avenue. We knew that discipline, consistency with IEPs, extreme behaviors, I've already shared some of the things that we put in place, which was Knights Academy. But we also went through a 3-year period where we have been really looking at our supports and what that looks like for interventions for those kids. It's very important we continue to look at that data and we monitor it and we make adjustments as we need to. Class sizes were an issue. I can safely say that we have 89% of our K through 12 or K through 5 classes at 89% of less than 25 students in a class. So that's phenomenal from where we came from. So we are trying to cap those interdistrict transfers from K to 2 at 20 and 3 through 5 at 23. So by offering consistent curriculum at all of our elementaries, we cannot have anyone saying that, well, this school offers this and that's why I want to go there. So we're trying to make sure that we have consistency across the board. So talked again about curriculum development. They've, actually, Dr. Corris led a team, actually several teams, right? To align the curriculum, making sure they're all on the same page, they're all doing the same things, and very standard driven. So we're very thankful for that. We also looked at motivation. What do we need to do to motivate our students? And as you can